Alright, so my camera decided to get, or my phone decided to get super weird there for a moment, so I'm not sure how much, if I actually missed a video or not. So I just want to kind of show you again, the bulb pulls out the back of the bulb retainer assembly. And what I found is the little 45-degree angle part goes to the right. This little notch you can actually feel if you put your hands underneath here. So if you do pull that out and turning it and trying to do everything, you do kind of forget which way it goes. I've kind of figured that part out. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back in there, try to get the bulb assembly pushed, the bulb pushed into the assembly, and try to get this retained again. So here we go. There we go. Alright, so I don't know if I really recommend this. I'm just aggravated enough at this point to do it. The bulb for me continued to pop out, so I've just made the commitment to go ahead and just super glue the plastic around the bulb to the retainer. Again, don't know if I'd recommend that 100%, but for me it's going to work today. And just waiting for the super glue to dry. Made sure I've got the super glue where it's not on the contacts. You can see the bulb actually is working. So I'm going to let that dry, and then we'll try to get everything mounted back together. Alright, I'll pick you up at that point. Okay, so I was able to finally work the plastic retainer with the light back up underneath. I can't tell you how much joy that was for me. I have no idea why it was so difficult, but it was for me. And I don't know exactly what this plastic piece here is, but it actually came off the underneath the assembly, and I'm not sure what it does. Number two is I also popped my switch here off, the little thumb release for the shifter. This knob and also the little button here, and that I thought I might have to take the whole shifter knob off in my case because I just couldn't see what was going on underneath. So the little button is actually at this point the assembly, the push button has been removed from its assembly, and it actually goes into the shifter handle, and that is actually slid inside of the shifter handle. And the reason that's bad news is that actually is wired all the way down through the shifter and up here to the front. You can see here I disconnected this, and for whatever reason this bottom piece is somehow retained to the plastic console frame, so you cannot undo this. My thought was, if I undo this, kind of undo the wire, I can just pull this whole shifter knob out and see under and show you guys exactly what this crazy console assembly looks like underneath, because it was absolutely impossible for me for a few minutes to get the retainer back underneath. But I finally did it. But now I've got the issue where I've got to fish the wiring for the button and get this pushed back out. Get this, the little wiring assembly pushed back into here. And at that point I can reassemble the push button on the knob, because all this kind of works. That's actually the overdrive button, excuse me. This is the shift knob release. So yeah, I've got a number of things left to do. Good news is I do have a bulb in there. Bad news is I've still got a lot to do. Alright, so I was able to fish the overdrive button assembly out of the handle. And again, basically you could pull the knob out, off, if you were able to get this wiring assembly here undone and fed it out. You could possibly pull this whole knob assembly out, but I don't know that I'd recommend that. Hopefully you guys will not have any of these problems. Alright, but what we got to do now is to just stick the overdrive assembly back in this This basically fits between where my finger is, the index finger. Goes right in this area. This little retainer is kind of broken in the process of all the goodness, and we'll get this put back into place, and then we'll work on the shift knob, and I'll pick you right back up. Alright, so in order to get this button back in, you kind of got to put it where the notches are coming on the upper side. And make sure you got your spring inserted as well. Now what you got to do, kind of takes two hands, but you've got the notch that will only push up when the ignition's on and the shifter is lifted up a little bit. So I'm going to turn the ignition, and then at that point the button will go in. We'll let the knob back down and then turn the ignition off, and that should retain this. Exactly. Should retain this, or it will not come back off. That's the general idea. Yeah, so at this point it won't come out if I resecure it with the two screws that go in the front of it. And we'll go ahead and retain that. Then we'll test everything out, make sure the shifter works, the lights work, and see if we can get this project put to rest. Alright. Okay, so love when you do the 5-minute round and look and the camera is not working. So anyway, so what I ran into, everything back together, the car would not go in gear, and so I pulled everything back out, went ahead and released this retainer for the wire that actually does the overdrive button. And actually it just kind of slides this on and off. I kind of tried to break it, honestly, because I didn't care if this retainer clip was there or not. So it actually did slide off for me, and I just kind of undid the wire, fed it back in, pulled the whole assembly up and off. At this point I got a big mess, but I think I've actually discovered what the problem was. This little piece that I had come out, I didn't know where it went. This is actually the thing that releases the shifter, where it will go in and out of gear. So this goes on the back side of where the park button fits. So the park, having laid it down, the park is at the top. It goes right in the back here. And let me focus on that. So you ever run into this? It's pretty important. The knob actually goes toward the rear, or toward the front of the car, excuse me. So we'll slide that in place. So then we'll have to put everything back together. And at that point, we should be able to shift it. What that little slider does, apparently, is it triggers this little slide button here, which you can see engages and disengages the shifter knob, apparently. So I'll put everything back together, and we'll give this thing a go. If my phone will respond and put you on hold. Of course it's alright. Well, my phone kind of hung up a couple times, so I'll probably have to kind of piece this video together. But anyway, nevertheless, we finally got everything back together. Kind of words can't describe how many issues that I ran into. Basically had to take everything here apart. One thing I might recommend, I think will be very smart for you, is to go ahead at the beginning and disconnect this wire, because this will actually, this controls not only the overdrive button, but also controls the, this gives power to the bulb. So if you go ahead and disconnect this and slide it off with a retainer, you can actually get a lot more play on the wiring, and you don't have to try to do everything underneath. You can kind of move these, move the things up and have more room, because you got some slack on the wires, to be able to work underneath the shifter and get the bulb assembly first of all removed, put your bulb in and put it back together. Just gives you a little more slack on the wires, and hopefully everything in creation will not fall apart inside of these areas like it did for me. My overdrive button has two retainers. One of them kind of snapped in this whole process, so it is hopefully functioning. I will not find out till I get it out on the highway. Not that I really use it, but another thing that might be of help, your shifter assembly fits on a little plastic rod, and it has to go this way where the tall end is toward the back of the car. Otherwise it will not fit through the little hole in the shift handle, and therefore you can't push and release the button that will allow you to do the shifting. So all kind of cool, fun, unexpected things that I learned today. But just to show you, I'm pretty sure it's not going to come up, not going to show up here on camera. I'll try to see if I can help that. Okay, it's not. But anyway, the lights I just tested, they work. So we can push in the button, we can shift gears, go all the way down, all the way back up. So at this point, light is good. So there we go, success. Hope this something that you guys will not run into near as many issues, but if you would like and subscribe, and you can post any comments, questions below.